Okay, let's unpack this. 2016, AlphaGo versus Lee Sedol. We all remember the AI winning, right?
Mm-hmm. Huge moment.
But Eric Schmidt points out something deeper. The truly revolutionary part wasn't just, the win.
Right.
It was how AlphaGo played. A specific move he emphasized, completely novel.
Yeah.
Something no human had thought of in, like, 2,500 years ago strategy.
That specific move, yeah, move 37, I think it was.
Exactly. And that moment, Schmidt argues, was the quiet start, the real beginning of the AI revolution,
Yeah.
much deeper than the chatbots grabbing headlines today.
Yeah, it showed this capacity for genuine strategic innovation, not just mimicking human play, but something new.
Which is fascinating because Schmidt really redirects our focus, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Away from just the language side of AI
Right, which gets all the press.
to its underlying capacity for complex planning, for reinforcement learning. That was the core of AlphaGo's breakthrough.
Exactly. It wasn't just a computer making moves. It was a system devising, entirely new strategies. It hinted at intelligence operating beyond human intuition.
Yeah. And that's what this deep dive is really all about for you, the learner. We're not just skimming the AI news here.
No, definitely going deeper.
We're pulling from Eric Schmidt's TED Talk, this analysis on human value in an AI world,
Mm-hmm.
the book Navigating the Post-Labor Future, a lecture series on post-labor economics, and even a detailed report on the true cost of energy in Australia. Bit of a mix.
But they connect, right? It all paints a bigger picture.
Absolutely. The mission here is to cut through the hype, explore the less discussed shifts, like this advanced planning capability generating complex research papers.
Right, and the geopolitical risks, which are huge.
The future of human value, what happens if we move towards a post-labor economy. And crucially, the resources needed, the sheer power required.
And when you connect those sources, like you said, a picture emerges. Schmidt's points on AI's potential and risks, they link directly to the economic shifts and the post-labor stuff.
Yeah.
And underpinning all of it, the energy and compute constraints. That Australian report really highlights the practical side of this whole thing. It's all interconnected.
So let's look beyond the chatbots for a second. This is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Schmidt stresses that while language models get the attention, the real leap, the big one, is reinforcement learning, the tech behind AlphaGo.
Mm-hmm.
And now, that same tech enables incredibly complex planning. Think systems like OpenAI O3 or DeepSeek R1
These things are writing deep research papers autonomously.
in minutes,
Yeah.
using just massive amounts of computation.
And that progression, as Schmidt points out, is key. It shows the evolution, right? From language
Yeah.
to understanding sequences, which is huge for biology,
Right.
and now to actual planning and strategy. It's like stepping stones to more sophisticated intelligence. Each stage builds on the last.
And Schmidt's long-term vision, he takes it even further. He talks about a future where computers run all business processes, with AI agents handling tasks, communicating with each other in human language, seamlessly.
So not just AI as a tool, but like an integrated intelligence layer across the economy.
Exactly. Key takeaway. AI is moving way beyond language. It's heading towards sophisticated planning and autonomous operation.
Which, okay, immediately raises a critical question. What kind of infrastructure do you need for that?
Right.
Schmidt's testimony about the U.S. needing an additional 90 gigawatts of power. That's like 90 nuclear plants.
Just for AI.
Yeah, it just starkly illustrates the scale of the energy challenge. It's
Yeah.
not just about clever code. It's about having the raw power.
Colossal energy demands. That's a key takeaway right there.
Definitely.
And the figures Schmidt shares, they're mind-boggling. He mentions the Arab world building data center hubs, 5 to 10 gigawatts.
Yeah.
India considering a single 10-gigawatt facility.
10 gigawatts. That's enormous.
His analogy is cities per data center for electricity use. It's almost hard to wrap your head around. Key takeaway. AI data centers needing city-level power.
And what's fascinating is this potential tension, right, between making algorithms more efficient
Yeah, you'd think they'd get better.
and the sheer computational power needed for these advanced planning tasks. Schmidt reminds us of the old saying, Grove giveth, Gates taketh away.
Meaning,
Meaning even if algorithms get smarter, the demands of these planning algorithms are projected to increase exponentially, like 100 to 1,000 times current levels.
whoa. So smarter algorithms might just need vastly more processing power anyway.
Potentially, yeah. The gains in efficiency might just get eaten up by the complexity of the tasks. Key takeaway. Algorithmic improvements might not offset the massive rise in compute demand.
So it feels like we're on this ever-accelerating treadmill. More refined AI needs exponentially more processing, more energy.
It certainly seems that way. And beyond energy and hardware, Schmidt also touches on other limits, like data scarcity.
Right, even though AI can generate its own data sometimes.
True, but for specialized domains, real data might still be a bottleneck. And more profoundly, he questions if current AI can make those truly novel leaps. Like Einstein.
Connecting completely disparate ideas.
Exactly. That kind of profound cross-domain insight that might still be uniquely human, for now at least.
Yeah.
Key takeaway. Current AI might still lack that true, groundbreaking cross-domain insight capability.
Okay, so this progression towards more capable AI, it naturally raises some serious questions, doesn't it? Concerns about autonomous AI are definitely growing.
Yeah, Yoshio Bengio, a big name in the field, he's even called for a pause on developing what he calls agentic AI that can act independently.
But there's a tension there, isn't there? Schmidt highlights this.
Absolutely. Bengio raises valid concerns about, unintended consequences from highly autonomous systems, things going wrong. But at the same time, there's this huge drive, including from Schmidt himself, to pursue those autonomous capabilities. The potential benefits are just so compelling.
And Schmidt uses this pretty stark analogy about the danger.
The unplug analogy.
Yeah. If AI agents started communicating in a language we just couldn't understand,
You'd have to pull the plug.
because you'd lose all oversight, which underscores the need for what he calls provenance and observability, knowing how AI reaches its decisions.
And this idea of setting clear red lines for AI development is just critical.
Yeah.
The industry itself is starting to identify thresholds that would signal, stop, reassess.
Like what specifically?
Things like recursive self-improvement, AI getting smarter on its own beyond our control.
Okay, that's scary.
Granting AI direct access to weapon systems, that's a big one.
Definitely.
Or AI being able to self-reproduce without permission. These aren't just abstract worries, they reflect real understanding of potential existential risks. Key takeaway. The AI industry is thinking hard about red lines to prevent dangerous autonomous AI.
But Schmidt brings in the geopolitical angle here, which complicates everything.
Right.
He points out even if one country slows down AI development, others might not.
In a global race, yeah, unilateral disarmament doesn't really work.
So that makes international guardrails agreements all the more essential. Key takeaway. Global competition makes controlling AI development really tricky.
And the dual-use nature of AI, civilian and military, makes it even harder.
How so?
Well, Schmidt mentions the U.S. military's human-in-the-loop doctrine, Rule 3000.09, I think, keeping humans in control of lethal force.
Right.
But the pressure to develop more autonomous military systems is undeniable. That raises huge ethical and strategic challenges.
And then you layer on the U.S.-China tech competition.
Which is escalating.
The reciprocal tariffs, 145% on some things, it has to impact the AI supply chain, right? So much relies on components from China.
Absolutely. And the U.S. restrictions on China getting advanced chips, that's clearly a major friction point. It's driving China's AI strategy.
Schmidt talks about these Track 2 dialogues, informal talks with Chinese counterparts.
Yeah, what's the takeaway there?
He says their main concern isn't necessarily AI progress itself, but the chip restrictions.
Yeah.
Blocking their access. But interestingly, despite those limits, Chinese companies like DeepSeek, they're developing really efficient algorithms.
Yeah.
Getting results with maybe less advanced hardware. Ingenuity.
Right. Finding ways around the restrictions.
And here's a twist. Schmidt suggests China's focus on open-source AI making models and code public.
Yeah.
Paradoxically helps U.S. development too. It creates this weird dynamic. Intense competition, but also shared progress.
Huh. That is interesting. But this divergence in approach, U.S. mostly closed proprietary models, China potentially leading in open source, that has risks, doesn't it?
Huge risks. The rapid spread of powerful AI through open source could accelerate misuse. Cyber attacks, bioweapons, even nuclear risks.
Because the tech becomes so easily available to anyone, good actors and bad.
Exactly. Key takeaway. The different U.S.-China approaches, closed versus open source, create both opportunities and serious global security risks.
Which brings us to a really concerning area. The race for superintelligence and the link to nuclear risk.
Yeah, Schmidt paints a pretty disturbing picture here.
How so?
He says even a 6-month lead in developing superintelligence AI way beyond human smarts could become insurmountable.
Because of network effects. And the speed AI improves itself.
Right. It just accelerates away.
Schmidt's analogy is powerful here. 1,000 human programmers creating a million AI software programmers that just need electricity.
It illustrates that exponential growth potential, doesn't it? The first nation to get there could fundamentally change everything, neutralize competitors in ways we can't even imagine.
And that creates terrifying incentives for any country falling behind.
Truly frightening. Schmidt lays out the grim options they might consider.
Like what?
Stealing the AI code, espionage, sabotaging the leading models, or even
Say it.
preemptive strikes against the leading country's data centers, trying to level the playing field.
That's chilling.
And most alarming, Schmidt says discussions about nuclear preemption related to a superintelligence race. They're already happening.
Seriously, among nuclear powers.
Apparently so. And the foreign policy establishment. Maybe not ready for this. He thinks this could be a reality within 5 years.
5 years. Wow. That is deeply concerning. Key takeaway. The superintelligence race is genuinely raising the terrifying possibility of nuclear preemption.
So let's circle back to open source AI for a moment. Schmidt calls it a wicked hard problem.
Yeah, you can see why.
On one hand, open source has been amazing for tech innovation, for science.
Absolutely. Democratizing technology.
But on the other hand, the worry is these powerful, potentially dangerous open source models falling into the wrong hands, malicious actors using them for large-scale harm.
It's a fundamental tension, isn't it? The benefits of access versus the potential for misuse. Key takeaway. Open source AI is this really tough trade-off between innovation and safety.
And while the current view might be that today's open source models aren't yet a global security threat.
Schmidt warns that could change fast as AI gets more capable.
Right. And he emphasizes, really, only the U.S. and China have the capital, the billions needed to build the most advanced AI right now. Their choices are central to this whole dilemma.
This intense U.S.-China competition, it echoes Dr. Kissinger's old worry about accidental war, doesn't it?
Schmidt highlights that risk, too. Like WWI, a series of miscalculations, escalations in the AI race, it could lead to catastrophe.
Feels like walking a tightrope.
Totally. And then there's this surveillance paradox Schmidt brings up.
Ah, yes. Explain that.
It's this troubling conflict where the solutions we might think of to prevent AI dystopia
End up looking a lot like the surveillance state we're trying to avoid.
exactly, like requiring proof of personhood online to tell humans from AI, or massive content moderation systems to fight AI fakes.
These protective measures could easily lead to widespread monitoring, loss of privacy. Key takeaway, trying to solve AI risks could accidentally create mass surveillance.
Schmidt really pushes back on this. He says we need to be super careful. He argues that what gets presented as a technical necessity that requires restricting freedom is often just a business decision.
Oh.
He believes it is possible to build AI systems that preserve, even enhance, freedom.
So the challenge is balancing verification, knowing who or what you're dealing with online, with privacy.
Right. And cryptographic solutions like zero-knowledge proofs, they offer a potential path.
Verifying something like you're human without revealing personal data.
Exactly. That could be a way through this paradox.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of daunting stuff. Risks, challenges.
It does sound pretty heavy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But Schmidt does offer some optimism. He outlines these inspiring dreams of AI's positive potential.
Thank goodness. What kind of dreams?
Well, huge medical breakthroughs. For one, eradicating diseases, finding new drug targets super fast, lowering drug trial costs.
That would be incredible.
Revolutionizing science, too, helping understand dark energy, dark matter, new materials, new transportation.
The potential impact on fundamental science is massive.
And not just science, universal education. Imagine personalized AI tutors for everyone in their own language using games to help people learn.
Wow. Leveling the educational playing field.
And better healthcare access. AI assistants helping nurses, village doctors, breaking language barriers.
Bringing expertise to underserved areas.
He even touches on AI helping with loneliness, which is ironic given how digital tools sometimes worsen it.
Right. Using the tech to reconnect people.
Ultimately, he frames AGI, superintelligence, as maybe the biggest event in 500 or 1,000 years.
That really puts it in perspective. The stakes are immense.
His warning, don't screw it up.
No pressure then.
So what does this all mean for us humans in this AI future? Are we just headed for lives of leisure while machines do everything?
Schmidt doesn't think so. He's got an interesting take. He believes basic human nature won't fundamentally change, even with radical abundance from AI.
We'll still want to do stuff.
Exactly. The desire to create, solve problems, engage meaningfully. That persists. Lawyers, politicians, they've adapted before, they'll adapt again. Find new complexities.
He also points to demographics, right?
Yeah.
Especially in Asia. Falling birth rates, aging population.
AI could become crucial there. Supporting aging populations, maintaining productivity with smaller workforces.
And the potential productivity growth? It's staggering.
Some studies suggest, 30 pregnant annual increases?
Yeah, which, as Schmidt notes, our current economic models just aren't built for. It's off the charts.
A totally different scale of economic change.
So Schmidt's advice, ride the wave.
But it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right. Commit to sustained effort, understanding and adopting AI as it evolves.
Because the pace is exponential. What you know now might be outdated in a couple of years.
Constant learning, adaptation. It's not optional, it's essential for everyone.
Every single profession, he says. Embrace AI tools to stay relevant. Artists, doctors, engineers, everyone.
Fail to adapt and you risk getting left behind.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly. That analysis, human value in an AI world, it digs deeper into how our roles and skills might need to change.
What's the core idea there?
It suggests that as AI makes information abundant, the value of just knowing stuff might decrease.
Yeah.
But uniquely human skills, creativity, empathy, critical thinking, those become more crucial, more valuable. Key takeaway. Human skills like creativity and empathy get a premium as AI advances.
So things AI struggles to replicate effectively. Emotional intelligence, ethical judgment.
Precisely. The analysis highlights human contributions centering around emotional intelligence, understanding, and responding to people, navigating complex ethics, building community.
Right, the social fabric stuff.
Yeah. It emphasizes needing skills like creative problem-solving, adaptability, and finding purpose in what we do.
So in a future where AI does a lot of the work, how do people actually earn a living, maintain economic agency?
Well, the analysis suggests a shift towards more creative work, providing emotional services, basically using AI as a tool to amplify our unique human abilities.
Not just being replaced by it.
Right, and it also considers new economic models, universal basic income, UBI as a safety net, the gig economy for flexible work.
It's interesting, though, the analysis assumes a benevolent AGI context. It's a pretty big assumption, isn't it?
It is a crucial one. It kind of takes the optimistic path, assuming AI develops positively.
Okay.
And then it gives examples of where human value persists, like needing human creativity even in AI-assisted ads.
Makes sense.
People still preferring human therapists, mostly.
Yeah, I can see that.
The value of life performances, human adaptability, things AI can't easily replicate.
So what specific roles do they see humans playing?
They talk about humans as integrators, blending AI insights with human intuition,
Okay.
as interpreters applying knowledge in specific human contexts, considering ethics, culture,
Right.
as community builders fostering connection, and as inspirers, motivating people in ways AI probably can't.
And the key skills to develop.
Creative and critical thinking, definitely. Emotional and social skills, ethical awareness, lifelong learning, obviously, but also craft and physical skills in areas that stay human, and exploring personal purpose, self-reflection.
And more concretely, like what kind of earning opportunities?
Examples like musicians on Bandcamp, therapists via BetterHelp, AI ethics consultants,
New field.
unique experiences like special dining or travel, curating information on Substack, organizing community projects on Kickstarter, leveraging platforms differently.
Okay, now the book, Navigating the Post-Labor Future, and that lecture series, they really get into the big economic picture, right?
Yeah, they tackle post-labor economics.
What's the core idea there? Key takeaway.
Yeah.
Post-labor economics looks at growth detached from human jobs.
Basically, it describes a future where economic growth isn't tied to human employment anymore.
How?
Advanced automation, AI, and robots displaces human workers across pretty much all sectors. Key takeaway, automation likely hits workers in many, many fields.
So GDP could go up, but jobs don't. Or incomes don't for most people.
Exactly. The old link breaks down. And this automation wave is different because it hits cognitive skills, even empathy-related tasks, not just manual labor.
And the lectures use that phrase. Better, faster, cheaper, safer.
Yeah, that's the driving force. Key takeaway, automation's driven by being better, faster, cheaper, safer.
Explain that a bit more.
It's the economic logic. If AI or robots can do a task better, quality, faster speed, cheaper cost, and safer, less risk, the incentive for businesses to automate becomes overwhelming.
And they give examples.
Yeah, AI outperforming humans in coding, autonomous vehicles having better safety records in some cases. It's already happening.
So if machines get better, faster, cheaper, safer, what happens to the whole wage-labor social contract, the way our economies are set up?
That's where the economic agency paradox comes in. Our system relies on people earning wages to participate in the economy, right? Plus owning property, voting. If automation removes wages for a large chunk of the population, a pillar of that contract crumbles. Key takeaway. Widespread automation could break the wage-based social contract.
And businesses face a paradox too.
Yeah.
They want efficiency, maybe 0 employees.
Right, but who buys their stuff if everyone's unemployed and broke?
Ah.
The drive for efficiency could undermine the consumer base the whole system needs. If unemployment hits, say, 30–40%, like some analyses suggest,
Wow.
aggregate demand collapses. You could get a severe, long-lasting depression. Key takeaway. Mass automation risks collapsing consumer demand.
So standard solutions like guaranteed jobs or shorter work weeks, why might they not be enough?
Well, guaranteeing jobs machines do better is inefficient, maybe unsustainable, even potentially demeaning.
Right.
And shorter work weeks. Businesses often prefer fewer full-time workers to minimize overheads. These don't solve the core problem. How do people get purchasing power if not mainly through wages?
Okay, so if wages aren't the main source of purchasing power, where does it come from? Key takeaway. We'll need new ways beyond wages for people to get economic agency.
The book and lectures stress a shift. Less reliance on wage income,
Yeah.
and significantly more income from owning property, owning assets, generating wealth that way, and also from government transfers like UBI.
Which is why expanding property ownership more broadly is seen as so crucial.
Exactly. If more people own assets, shares, real estate,
Yeah.
IP, they generate income from returns, rents, gains, less dependent on a paycheck.
And the book explores models for collective ownership.
Right, to help distribute wealth more widely.
Like what color models?
Things like trusts benefiting many people, sovereign wealth funds distributing returns to citizens, employee stock plans, ESOPs, customer equity, cooperatives.
The goal being?
A positive flywheel of compounding wealth for more people, the opposite of a few owning everything and the rest owning nothing.
And UBI, Universal Basic Income. What's the take on that?
Seen as potentially necessary, a basic income floor.
But with challenges.
Yeah. Risks of central control, market distortion, inflation, tax flight. It's complicated. Maybe multi-level UBI could help tailor it.
So it's not just a handout, it's rethinking how value is created and shared when labor isn't the main engine. And banks, local governments, might play bigger roles.
That's a key insight. Banks could become hubs for managing individual wealth, replacing the employer for economic security.
Interesting.
And local governments, like counties, might be ideal places to test new economic initiatives, safety nets, on a smaller scale.
This is all incredibly complex, interconnected, and as we talked about with Schmidt, powering it all needs immense energy and compute.
Which brings us back to that Australian energy report.
Right. Why look at Australia specifically?
It's a good case study. Diverse energy, lots of renewables potential, and good transparent cost data.
Okay.
The report breaks down the levelized cost of electricity, LCOE, for everything solar, wind, coal, gas, nuclear. That's the average lifetime cost per megawatt hour.
And it looks beyond just generation cost.
Yeah, it gets into system costs, integration costs, the whole picture.
So what are the big headlines from that report? What's cheapest in Australia right now?
Variable renewables, solar PV and onshore wind, by a significant margin.
Really?
Yeah. Large-scale solar LCOE is projected to keep falling, maybe down to $1943 per milliwatt by 2050,
Wow.
compared to...
Coal is like $102,564. Gas, $128.80, thought it was $192. And nuclear, especially small modular reactors, SMRs, way higher. $155 up to a staggering $663 per milliwatt.
Okay, that's a huge difference. Key takeaway. Renewables, solar and wind are currently Australia's cheapest new electricity source.
But the report also flags the role of government subsidies, right?
Big time. The analysis shows fossil fuels still get significant support in Australia, around $14.5 billion in just 2023-24.
Compared to renewables.
Renewables got about $29 billion over a decade. So fossil fuels still get substantial annual subsidies, making them look cheaper than they really are. Key takeaway. Australian fossil fuels still get hefty government subsidies. And beyond generation costs and subsidies. Maintenance, decommissioning, grid integration. Right. The report digs into those system costs. Renewables avoid fuel costs, obviously.
But they have integration costs.
Yeah.
For reliability.
Exactly. As you add more wind and solar, you need more storage, grid upgrades, ways to manage demand. Those costs increase with penetration.
And nuclear.
High upfront costs, very high decommissioning costs later. Long life, but expensive end of life. Renewables have lower decommissioning costs, but shorter lifespans.
So even with integration costs, renewables still come out ahead.
Generally, yes. For new generation capacity in Australia, the analysis suggests renewables remain the most economically competitive, even factoring that stuff in. Key takeaway. Renewables seem cost-effective overall in Australia, even with system costs. Nuclear stays expensive there.
So thinking about the massive energy needs for AI, this strongly suggests investing heavily in renewables makes economic sense, not just environmental sense.
That's a crucial implication. The report suggests redirecting fossil fuel subsidies towards renewables and the grid infrastructure needed to support them. That could be a smarter, long-term strategy, especially with AI's energy demands looming. Nuclear, at least in Australia's context, looks much pricier.
Okay, wow. We have covered a lot of ground today.
You really have.
The underhyped AI revolution, the resource challenges, the geopolitics, human value shifting, the post-labor economy ideas, and the critical role of energy costs, using Australia as a lens.
And it's all incredibly interconnected, isn't it?
Totally.
AI's future is shaped by energy, compute, geopolitics, and our ability to adapt our economic and social systems. That energy report just grounds it in practical reality.
So the big question hanging there, given AI's huge potential and the massive shifts needed,
Right.
are we actually ready as individuals and societies? Are we ready to ride this wave and, not screw it up?
Especially with those energy demands and geopolitical stakes.
Yeah. And maybe most importantly, what's the role of individual initiative? Adaptability, lifelong learning. How much can we do to navigate these huge systemic changes?
That's the critical point, isn't it? While these are massive global shifts needing policy action, individual agency matters hugely. Embracing learning, focusing on those uniquely human skills, creativity, empathy, critical thinking, that's vital for each of us.
To navigate and maybe find new ways to contribute, find meaning.
Exactly.
Well, we really hope this deep dive has given you, the learner, some valuable insights, sparked some curiosity. The conversation obviously doesn't end here. What questions are top of mind for you now? What aspects feel most urgent, most fascinating?
We'd encourage you to dig into the sources we discussed. Keep engaging with these transformative developments.
Absolutely. Keep learning.